The problem is not your lack of confidence. The problem is that your nervous system is overriding your confidence, because confidence is your natural state. Think about it when you are with people that you're comfortable with, whether it's friends or anyone or even on your own. You're not thinking, I wish I was more confident in this situation, or I feel like I'm lacking confidence. I mean, you may feel that if it's around friends that you feel slightly intimidated or not enough or not good enough to hang out with. But with the people that you feel really comfortable with, that you feel safe with, you're not thinking about confidence. You're in that safe and social. Confidence is your natural state. And the problem is your nervous system overrides that. It gets into a threat detection, protection mode, where you might start to feel that you're not good at public speaking, or you get nervous easily, or you don't seem to say the right things. These are all stress responses that happen at a subconscious level. And so your nervous system is overriding your conscious ability to be confident, to convince yourself to be confident, which is why sometimes just trying to mindset shift or talk yourself into confidence isn't working. Your nervous system isn't doing this to intentionally sabotage you. It is really just doing this to protect you. It's prioritizing protection over connection. Before I explain the relationship between your nervous system and your confidence, the signs to look out for to also learn which stress response is being activated for you. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and how to actually pattern interrupt this cycle of feeling stressed, having the stories going on about what that means about you, and then feeling more stressed, and then it just kind of spiraling. We want it to spiral in a positive way as opposed to a downward spiral. So before I explain all that, you're probably wondering who I am and how I know all this. If you're not wondering that, then feel free to fast forward. But I'm Molly Holly, and yes, Holly is a shortened version of my last name, so I feel like I'm allowed to call myself that. And at some point in my career, I studied science for 6 years, and then I found myself in corporate leadership for another 5 years. And then over the last few years, I've been doing over 400 hours of breathwork, hypnosis, and coaching. But before all that, I used to call myself many things: shy, introverted, insecure, and I would work so hard so that my work would speak for me, so that I didn't have to speak for myself. And I think I unintentionally managed to avoid public speaking opportunities, even in my leadership roles, because when an opportunity would come up, it was like I would pretend that I was bad at communicating, so people would be like, oh no, don't ask Molly anyway. And so I'm so glad I'm realizing it now, because if I was still on that career path and I realize this now, it would just be like, wow, how many opportunities have I blocked or limited myself from just because I had such a fear of speaking to people, of being seen, of being heard, of potentially embarrassing myself. But the thing is, in corporate, it's so easy to hide, right? Like, you can just get your work done, go in, do your thing. That's why it's actually very easy in corporate to become successful and climb the career ladder, if that's what you want, when you start speaking up and showing up and being okay with being visible and being the one that people look to for direction and to problem solve, because there's so many people that are just stuck playing small, stuck hiding. When you're an entrepreneur, you kind of need to figure this stuff out pretty fast, because there really just is nowhere to hide. Even if you don't want to be, even if you're not visible in an online sense, so maybe if you've got, as opposed to like a service or a forward personal brand facing business, even if you have a product business or a software business, or you're just behind the scenes, people are still going to be looking for you for leadership and direction. And so you can't hide when you're the founder and visionary of a business. And so I hope that by the end of this video, you'll realize that it's not that you're a shy, insecure person, and you're probably not bad at communicating, and You're probably actually a really great leader and have so much to say, so much to create, so much to do, except your nervous system keeps getting in the way because it's trying to protect you. And the reason in the first place your nervous system may even think or consider your public speaking or speaking in front of a group or speaking to an authority figure or something like that as a threatening situation is because it's still running off old programming that is influencing your beliefs and your subconscious and your body at a somatic level. And if we dig deeper, you'll start to notice that essentially your nervous system is trying to protect you from, or what you're afraid of is humiliation, judgment, embarrassment, which could potentially lead to rejection or abandonment. Even though at a conscious level, it's like we know that as an adult, it's usually fine. Like even if you embarrass yourself, you're not going to get totally abandoned. Or even if you say the wrong thing, people might not be even noticing. And it's like consciously, you know that it's actually fine and you're actually safe even when you're doing something that requires courage and a new level of competence. But then it's like, why at a physical level am I so nervous? My mind blocks up, I can't speak, all these things. And oftentimes these body reactions can be traced back to much earlier experiences. And so anytime you have that overwhelming discomfort, to ask yourself, when did I first experience this feeling? Not when did I first have to, speak to my boss or do public speaking. When did I first feel this, whatever it is, like fear of humiliation, fear of disappointment, fear of rejection, this kind of feeling that I need to protect myself. When did you first experience that? And you'll start to uncover the source of that initial programming. And for some of us, it may be quite a traumatic experience, but it can also be something so simple, like your parent forgot to pick you up from school one time and you suddenly felt abandoned, or you said something to another kid and no one laughed and then they ran away. And so it's like, oh no, like if I say anything and try and be funny, people will just think I'm weird and I will be isolated, right? So sometimes it can be so simple, and that's why I really like talking about these things, because this whole concept of our nervous system and how it relates to our thoughts and behaviors is often being only talked about in regards to big trauma. But I think if we start to realize that even these moments as a child, because, as a really young child, just what we would perceive as an adult as an accident or not even a form of rejection, to your child self is life-threatening. And so it's not that your younger self was wrong in that situation, it was that they didn't know how to handle that situation or process that situation, and so it overwhelmed your system at that younger age. And so now as an adult, it's up to you to resolve that old program, to rewrite that old program. And the thing is, it is so possible. It is so easy and so possible to rewrite that old program, to resolve the unresolved emotions your younger self felt. And it is something that I work with. That's essentially what I work with all my clients with, particularly one-to-one. Soon there'll be group programs. But yeah, is like tapping into those old programs, regardless of whether it's big traumas or micro moments that felt traumatic to you as a younger child. We resolve those without needing to understand or go deep or analyze. It's just, somatic, subconscious level, the symbology around it. And then essentially as a result, you become naturally confident purely for the fact that it's easier for you to remain within a state of safe and social, or a feeling of innate safety within yourself no matter what is going on around you. What can be quite interesting, and what can also tell you a lot about yourself is which specific stress response is actually being triggered, because most of us gravitate more towards one than the other. We all can experience all of them. And when I say all of them, I mean fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. But oftentimes we will gravitate more towards one. I think fawn and fight have been my most common. But essentially, by understanding which stress response you gravitate towards more, it's the opposite of that is going to be the most helpful for you. It's going to be, in some ways, challenging, but it's the thing you need to really grow. For example, if your common response is flight, then slowing down, being present within the moment is what's going to be best for you. If it's freeze, then movement, momentum, speeding up is actually going to be better for you. If your common stress response is fight, then actually being less assertive and more receptive is what's going to help you grow. Whereas if it's fawn, then being more assertive is really what's going to help you grow. And so some of the common signs, and I've got this, I don't know if you can see that. Created a long list. I'll just read a few of these, but if you want to read that full list, then I have this all written down in my Substack. So yeah, link a description for that. Or if you're watching on Substack, then it's just below. So when it comes to the fight stress response, it is, of course, mobilizing, pushing through. In meetings, you might find yourself talking over others, trying to dominate the conversation of the agenda. When you're being challenged or criticized, you might become combative or dismissive, or you read that feedback as a personal attack. When it comes to you speaking up and using your voice, you might try to over-explain or prove your credibility. This is so me. If flight is your common stress response, so this is more towards escape and avoid. So in meetings, you might try and stay quiet, stay hidden, sit at the back, or even kind of like over-prepare, like always be one step ahead. When you're challenged or receive feedback, you may try to deflect or even, just avoid the personal conversation entirely. When you're speaking up or using your voice, you might find yourself saying to yourself, I'll speak up when someone asks me. I'll wait for permission to speak up, but no one actually gives you that permission, so you never speak up. And secretly, you're a little bit happy that you never actually had to speak up in the first place. Maybe under pressure, high-stakes situations, you just avoid hard conversations or bury yourself in busyness. It's right, trying to always stay one step ahead, moving, keep going. Or, of course, the avoiding patterns. If freeze is a common stress response when it comes to confidence at work, in business, in career, in meetings. So when I say meetings, like group situations, you may go blank if you're put on the spot, trail off mid-sentence, or it's almost like your mind has a mini shutdown and you can't actually access what you're trying to think of. You might stare, go silent, can't respond, can't think of a reply, but then later when your nervous system calms down, you think of all the replies you could have said, and it's like, why did I not say that in the meeting? You feel a level of paralysis that you can't decide what you need to do or what options there is, maybe stalling big decisions. And then fawn is the more appeasing and complying type stress behaviors. So again, in meetings, you're agreeing with people, you deflect credit, it was a team effort, laugh nervously to ease tension, and you definitely try to avoid disrupting in any way. You might even over-apologize when you're trying to convince a point, like, sorry, I need to say this. When you're required to speak up or use your voice, you may soften the message to a point that it's lost, so just trying to accommodate and be agreeable with everyone. Compulsively asking, does that make sense? Again, trying to get that that affirmation that it's okay, you're doing okay. If you're under pressure, a high stakes situation, it's saying yes to everything, prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own. And then to keep it balanced, this is what it would be like if you were feeling in a safe and social, if you felt like your nervous system wasn't activated and you were in this innate sense of safety, which is, I guess, what we all want. And these behaviors, interestingly, are exactly how we perceive confident people, or people that seem to know what they're doing, or people with high authority or presence, or this leadership kind of energy, which is actually so available to all of us if we sort out this nervous system programming, this nervous system regulation. Ultimately, whatever you want to call it, there's so many words being thrown around, but it is removing the old programming that's triggering your nervous system in the present moment. And so being in a safe and social state in a meeting or a group situation, you would contribute with ease, not urgency. Take up space without apologizing for it. Own your ideas and claim your wins. And you'll be comfortable being seen and heard. Even when you're challenged or criticized, you stay grounded without collapsing. You consider feedback with curiosity. You hold your position by choice, not to prove, but because you believe in yourself enough to hold that position. When you're required to speak up and use your voice, you speak with clarity and conviction. No excessive qualifiers or apologies. Warm, steady, authoritative voice. And under high pressure and high stakes situations, you respond thoughtfully rather than react. And you make decisions with clarity, not fear. And you lead with presence and confidence. This is all possible for you. This is what I want you to experience. When you start changing these old, outdated programs, what happens is you've got this cycle. So it's, I don't know what to call it, SSS cycle, triple S cycle, don't know. But anyway, it's you got the state and your state, so your physical state, how you're feeling, kind of like nervousness, emotions, or confidence, calm. That's your state. And your state influences your stories. So the thoughts you were thinking about how you feel, the thoughts you were thinking about what you were doing, what's going on. And then your stories influence how much stress you're experiencing, or how much stress you're not experiencing. And then the stresses influence your state, and you have this cycle which also goes around the other way. So your state influences how much you're stressed about something, influences the stories you're telling yourself about that thing, and those stories influence your state. So what can happen is, of course, this downward spiral of state, story, stress. The good thing is you only really need to change one of these things to either interrupt the cycle, or if you want to change all of them, to get a more upward spiral. So, for example, an upward spiral would be the state. You're feeling calm. Because you're feeling calm, you have these stories about how confident you are, how capable you are, how proud you are of yourself. Because you have those stories going on, you don't feel stressed about it. And because you don't feel stressed about it, again, this reinforces this I've got this feeling, this strength and this capability and this courage, which then further reinforces the stories of I'm proud of myself, I can do this, I can achieve more, which then reinforces the less stress or the safety, which right all back the other way. Yeah, I won't go over it, you get the point. But essentially, to interrupt this cycle and reverse it into an upward spiral is you can either remove the stressor, which I know is probably the least possible for many of us, but it needs to be said because, let's be honest, in most cases, if that stressor wasn't there, then we wouldn't be having this state story situation. And sometimes, even if we can't actually remove the whole stressor, so, you know, we need to go to meetings, we need to talk to our boss, we need to talk to our team, what has really helped me is thinking about it differently. So as opposed to thinking and getting in my head about, okay, I'm speaking to a group, which still, you know, creates a little bit of nervousness for me because, funny story, when I was 5 years old, I attempted to choreograph a play and then be the main character in that play and perform that play at the school talent quest in front of everyone. And I remember, I think I actually don't remember what the play was about. There was we were like animals in it. I don't know, talking animals as you are. It's like the creativity of a 5-year-old. And I was dressed up in something leopard print. And I remember being behind stage and I didn't know how many people were out there. And I was so excited. I was like, hey, we're going to do this. This is going to be the best. We're going to win the talent show. And then I ran out on stage and there's all these people looking at me and I totally freeze. And then I run off stage humiliated and it's kind of been haunting me ever since. And so when I'm now speaking to groups, instead of thinking, okay, I'm speaking to a whole group of people and I got to manage, you know, interact with everyone, I've started really focusing on, okay, one person. I really enjoy having one-to-one conversations and I feel quite calm and relaxed when I'm having one-to-one conversations. And so now when I'm even speaking to any size group, I just remind myself that I'm actually having a one-to-one conversation. It's just all these other people get the benefit of listening in on this conversation. And I probably won't just focus on one person for that whole time. I'll move around, but even as I focus on different people, each time it's like, this is a one-to-one conversation. And that feels really powerful for me. That's changing the stressor to change my stories and my state. Now, when it comes to the state section of this cycle, this is where the breath work, the somatic work, the movement really comes in. And you've essentially got the micro moments or the micro habits, and then I guess the more macro processes. So the micro habits are all the in the moment things. So doing a breath work beforehand or afterwards, or, you know, I find I don't do a lot of tapping, but I just find it really helpful as a sensory awareness and a focal point. So either tap my wrist or to somewhere not visible, particularly if I'm speaking to an audience. Becoming sensory aware, like slowing everything down, being aware of the temperature, the sounds, particular people, as opposed to this kind of like fast moving ahead, really slowing down and becoming present within your body, because when there's a threat, there's this kind of speeding up adrenaline, right? And so slowing that down helps you come back into, I don't want to say, I'm trying to think of a better word. Control is probably not the right one, but a feeling of ease, and that you've got it under control because you've slowed it down. Think about how much easier it is to do something or like a superhero movie, right? If they're struggling to do something, they slow it down and suddenly they can do so much more. They seem so much more capable. It's kind of the same with sensory awareness. You're just slowing everything down so that it doesn't feel like you're constantly trying to catch up to the situation. And then the macro processes, these are where you would work on the past programming to, that's activating your nervous system. I kind of mentioned it a few times already, but that's the heavy lifting, I would say, of your somatic state is breath work, somatic work, tremor release, all these things. The aim is really to resolve and clear out any of the leftover past stuff that is overflowing your stress bucket. And then you have stories, which is one of my favorite ways to create changes. State is so powerful. Stories, I feel like, is one you can do a lot, and you can have really fast changes and shifts from it. And these are, it's not just your self-talk. Self-talk, if anything, is almost, can be like a byproduct of your beliefs and identity. And so when I say stories, it's the stories you tell yourself in regards to the beliefs you tell yourself, what you tell yourself about your identity, who you are as a person, what you're capable of, what it means for you to feel this way in this situation, all these kinds of stories. And when I did say you can't convince yourself out of a stress response, because when you're in it, right, that's your state has taken control. And so often doing a solution to resolve or, resolve your state in those moments is going to be more effective. But when you're not in the actual environment or the situation that is causing that stress response, and to make you feel like you don't have confidence, is outside of those is the reframing and the retraining of your beliefs and identity. And you can do this either with journaling, with a coach, or someone that asks you kind of quite potent questions to really unpack a lot of those beliefs. Or one of my favorite is, of course, hypnosis, when it comes to your identity and building confidence at a deeper level. I have some really great hypnosis also on my Substack, the Resonance Club. I write there, but I also upload a lot of my longer hypnosis and guided journeys there. These hypnosis I wrote a long time ago and then repurposed them, because they are just, there's 3 in particular, and if you listen to any one of them, I promise you will feel amazing. So check those out. I also have some shorter hypnosis and breath works on my other YouTube channel as well. So my aim is to make sure you have so many tools and resources, so it's not like, so when you're in the moments, you can do something about them. And I feel like that is so powerful. That is such an empowering thing you can do for yourself, is to realize that even in those moments when your nervous system is overriding your conscious ability to process a situation, you always have tools and resources that you can access, that you can use, that you can help the situation so that it is better in the future, and you can gradually grow and improve and become the person you're always meant to be and live the life you've always dreamt of. Thank you again for watching. I'm Molly Holly. Check out the description for all the links I mentioned. And remember, when you change your state, you change your stories and you change your stress.